Hello, my name is Judy. Welcome to my site. I am here to deliver to you what God has delivered to me. Hope and an eternal connection to love. I am assuming you found me by looking for info about being single and a Christian. This subject, being single and a God-seeking Christian who wants to be married, has tumbled me around through bouts of anger, despair, and disbelief, as I have sought answers to the questions, why am I alone? Why am I here? And how do I change my status to happily married? I have been depressed through long seasons of unhappiness, even to the point of becoming suicidal in my early 20s. I have railed out in anger at the throne of God, demanding to know why He left me in the lurch with a desire to share my life with a worthy partner. Each attempt to find such a person was disappointing and heart-wrenching. I am not a person who has suffered in silence. I have protested to God loudly. I have immersed my family and friends into my discontent with life so often, they found ways to finally just shut me down. Either please get past this or understand I don't know how to continue listening to you. Do you relate to what I have just said? If you do, I am glad to make your acquaintance. Let me introduce myself to you again. My name is Judy. I am a chronic and unapologetic malcontent with my life on this earth. I want more. And I have not stopped seeking the greater good for my life, and I won't either. I am among many, many men and women who suffer from the societal mess that, amongst other things, helps make relationships transient and full of empty promises. I know God has better for me than that. Let me tell you a story about relationships. I had prayed and prayed for a lasting, fulfilling relationship with a life partner, and a guy came along, one of several actually. Our first date was draped around a beautiful candlelight dinner in a nice restaurant. Standoffish at first, I got to know his patterns of doing life, what he said about his relationship with the Lord, watched how he treated me. I made sure he had a defendable style of honoring other women in his life, like his sister or his mom. In my praying, I asked God sincerely for this to be the one and to show me clearly if he wasn't. We had conversations, dates, sharing of ideas. I checked to see carefully if I had a realm of influence with this man who seemed more wonderful every day. What do I mean by this? I wanted to see if the essence of who I am encouraged depth and desire for meaning in him and a desire for me. I wanted to see a common bond of faith developing, and my heart longed for it. That longing only intensified when I saw that he could barely take his eyes off of me. And then I got the barrage of texts and emails. My workday would be riddled with quick firing off of texts back to him, and I felt my world becoming cozier with this budding romance. My thoughts turned to this message at last. God has seen fit to bring this guy into my life as a reward for the waiting I have done. He finally is honoring my prayers. Oh, I wish that I could tell you it had turned out really, really well, but it didn't. He told me one evening after we'd been together talking on the couch and holding each other, he had to go do an errand. And he said, so I've got to leave right now. So he did, but he left his cell phone by accident on my coffee table. I went to sleep on the couch and then was waked up with all these noises coming through his phone, and I found out when I picked up his phone and began to read that love messages were coming in from 2 other females. So I began to look over his history and realized that he had been lying to me on several points. His real girlfriend, the one that he had been courting with some intensity on the side, was asking, well, I saw the name Judy in your history. Who is she? Oh, she's nothing. She's nothing. Just somebody I kind of know. So she asked again, and finally he said, knock it off, in a text back to her. I told you she's a nothing to me. She's not anything you need to worry about. So he was playing 3 of us gals against each other. And it became obvious to me through some of the texts that came through, he had been sexually involved with probably the other 2 girls. I was devastated. I immediately got on the phone late at night and called my friends who had all met this guy and said to them, you're not going to believe what I just discovered. It was absolutely horrific. And I wish I could tell you it was an isolated incident. But I've been rejected a lot by men who have courted me, led me to believe something, and then dumped me with the slightest provocation. And I have been left awash in absolute mystery and sorrow and grief, wondering what in the world happened. Okay, I'll bet this story sounds familiar to at least some of you. And some of you are guys that have experienced this, not just the women. Do you ever wonder why in this society and in your life, things like this keep happening over and over again? It wasn't until I embarked on a very strange, in some ways, personal journey toward emotional healing that I began to discover that there are things that underpin a pattern like this. There are things that are going on in the spirit realm I couldn't have even known until they were revealed to me, which led me to ask the questions that led to some very important answers. I want to challenge your thinking with some of the things I have discovered. First of all, there are laws and principles that undergird and define virtually every area of our existence. Most of the time, we don't even think about them. For instance, there are natural laws like gravity that govern our experience. The law or principle of homeostasis in the body dictates that if the body gets out of balance on things like pH or oxygenation, the person will not be able to live past a certain point. If I'm going into shock after a bad accident, my body responds to the laws that are in existence to keep it alive. My body will actually shunt my blood into the core of my body to keep me alive. There are laws that govern international commerce, which if defied, it tips nations into crisis. I think you get my point. What is often not known is that, number one, you and I are spiritual beings. Number two, there are laws that govern the spiritual world. Number three, if we violate those laws with the way we are living, there are things that will happen as a result. Patterns of life outcomes will often tell us about ourselves and where we may be in poor alignment with the laws created for unity and peace. Number four, we were created by one who left us an owner's manual that has been written and carefully preserved down through the millennia, so that we don't have to guess on how the spiritual world works. The very one who created us intended us to operate inside of his design and no others. Number five, once we discover the laws of the spiritual world, we are in a great position to live life to the fullest. And we are also empowered to live life in such a way as to overcome those things which have been obstacles and painful to us when others have fallen out of alignment with those spiritual laws. You may be wondering why talk of laws and principles would have anything to do with making good choices in relationships with the opposite sex. But I would assert to you that it has many things to do with our relationship building and choices, especially if you are a person who has made many of the same types of mistakes over and over again, or you find that you are attracting people into your life who are not good for you, and it keeps happening. The same type of person keeps coming along. You need to look at these principles and laws. I would also tell you that if abuses of any kind seem to stick to your life like Velcro, you need to know about the spiritual world and how it works. So let's start with understanding number one that I gave us to look at. We are spiritual beings. Ultimately, your connection to love and hope will come when you truly find out your origin. I'm going to discuss your origin and why it matters that you know you were designed by a creative being. He is not one who just created and left. He desires to have a relationship with you. Therefore, he knows how to define and even how to implement desirable, healthy, and loving relationships. Thank you for joining me. Please check into my very next session on our origin and why it matters. I am excited to be able to tell you that there is love in this universe and you can find it.